Alright, you lovely listeners, Jack here, just with a little prefix to the episode. Basically, this was one of our earlier ones before we got our act together with a Twitter account and whatnot. So just to say, if you like the episode or the pod in general, just give us a follow at Tales for Wales. That's the number 4, not the word. You can praise our niche little pod, give us suggestions and whatnot, or you can just jump on there and give us a complex through targeted personal abuse. It's up to you, really. Either way, enjoy the epi, you nerds.
So I thought we were doing this mainly for a laugh, like just for me and you, if no one else.
True.
Because we're nerds, we like history, we like drinking, so it's a good way of doing a bit of, like, we're copying drunk history, but Welsh. And because we specifically love Wales, especially stories where Wales looks cool and brave and sexy, and not portrayed as like sheep shagging, Valley Commando, Uncle Bryn loving, nation of what's occurred in, all that kind of bollocks. So it's more interesting to think back when we were...
As sexy as that is, that was sexy back in like the noughties. This is the new sexy.
This is the new sexy, baby. We're bringing sexy back, but by back I mean really far back.
Way back.
way back, baby. And so, yeah, each week our plan would be to run through a famous battle in Welsh history, or a famous Welsh man or woman, and break it down into different kind of categories and segments and all things interesting. So I thought we'd be looking at people like Llywelyn ein Llyw Olaf, Llywelyn Mawr, Queen Boadicea, but also famous history battles in history, I should say.
I like that you included the and women as well. You know, we're talking about medieval and medieval and before medieval, but we're not medievally principled. It's,
Very true. Very true. But today's one we're going to do, first ever, is the biggie. Battle of Bryn Glas, which is the Battle of Bryn Glas, which is one of Owen Glyndwr's big battles. And I've done a little
also
background.
known as the... Oh, sorry, mate. Already fucked it up on the over talking there. Also known as the Battle of Pilleth, or Pilleth, as the English call it.
Oh, those bastards. Of course they'd call it
There
that.
we go. Bastardising it already.
Bastardising it already. I hate it. They say, Bryn Glas means green or blue. It doesn't mean green or blue. It's blue. Glass is blue. But they always say glass could be green. Like, they said it on QI once. And, God, I've never forgiven him.
I read, actually, it's because it's derived from a Latin word that used to mean the colour of the sky or the grass. Now, I don't speak Latin, but that seems like you can't really be very specific if your colours mean two different things.
It's like when they say, I was going to say Ethiopians, but Eskimos have like 30 words for snow. It's like, it's bollocks, mate.
Just why? Call it fucking snow. Everyone knows what it means.
Chill out.
Yeah.
Well, this
it'd be like
going,
the white snow, but white actually means like black as well.
Yeah,
you know?
black, white snow. Bollocks, you stupid Latin. That's where you're fucking dead. So we're going to start with the Battle of Bryn Glas, and I put in a little bit of a background. And what we're going to do is, 1 week, one of us will read out a background intro, what happens, and another week the other person will. And then once we've gone through the detail, we'll flesh out some of the gorier parts, the interesting parts, the meat of it, discuss certain people, have our own view on it, and just kind of, an educational but fun as well. So we're learning, but we're having fun. And we're going to go through, see how we find it.
It's never been done before.
It's never been done before.
Education. It's, we're breaking ground. I love it.
Lord Reith for the BBC, it was educational, entertaining, and something else. We had 3 things, and we're 2 of those, so...
Yeah, so that's not bad. 2 out of 3.
Yeah, 2 out of 2.
They made a song about it. Must be true.
Yeah, of course. So I'll start with just a little background. So the Battle of Bryn Glas was Owen Glyndwr's War of Independence. Was a major battle in one of his wars. I'll start that again, shall I? Oh. The Battle of Bryn Glas was Owen Glyndwr's major battle in the War of Independence. And his War of Independence occurred against a backdrop of instability in the English monarchy. So Owen himself already served in the English army. He'd been fighting in Scotland and elsewhere before coming back to his lands in Wales. And according to himself, because apparently he paid a poet to write poems about him, where shock horror, he came out of it quite well. But whilst he was back in Wales, he was doing a good job of it, and people really enjoyed him.
That's great. That's it's great PR. It's absolutely fabulous.
You're a poet, yeah. You're gonna like what your category is, me. And
I wish more people did that these days. Never mind these social media campaigns. Get a poet in. Just write a bit of poetry about me.
I was going to read out one of the poems, but it's dog shit, and it's in quite old Welsh, so it's really hard to understand.
Bit dated.
Yeah. There was no like,
we wouldn't get the pop culture references at the time.
Yeah. Well, they do reference his wife's garden, which I wasn't sure was a euphemism, but apparently she got a beautiful garden, lovely bush.
Oh, and Glyndŵr, the original OG, he's definitely referencing his missus's garden.
Yeah, she got a farm bush, and then apparently he was well liked in the area. And then the King of England, King Richard II, had become alienated from many of the big boppers in England, and had been overthrown by Henry Bolingbroke. Bolingbroke, what a name. Who was the Duke of Lancaster, who became Henry IV of England. In Wales and the Welsh Marshes, there were still many supporters of the deposed Richard, who died in captivity, which is such a funny word to say. He was dead in That's what he was died in captivity in 1400s. In that year, Reginald Grey, 3rd Baron Grey of Dyruthin, a supporter of the new king, had unlawfully taken Glyndŵr's land and falsely caused charges of treason to be brought against him.
Can we call him Reg from now on, please?
Yeah, Reggie baby.
Reg, big
remember,
Reg.
Did you ever used to watch The Bill? And it's Reggie baby? There was
no, I can't say I did. I missed it now.
Yeah, that's one for the diehards. Yeah, he tried to take Owen Glyndŵr's land, and he falsely accused him of treason. And that's why I call quite the counter now, because Glyndŵr then said, "Oh, for fuck you, actually, I'm the true Prince of Wales." So from having his land stolen, come out to you, I had this land, I want all of it, you fucking prick.
That's a hell of a retort, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, it's a good
I
counter.
think this is mine. No, it's not.
Yeah,
well,
actually,
you're treasonous. Yeah, well, I'm a fucking prince, so fuck you.
So from there, that's where his rebellion started. And in the early 1400s, he started getting quite a bit of success, and so King Henry led a punitive expedition into North Wales, and that appeared to have quashed the rebellion. However, crafty old Glyndŵr remained at large, and his due to anti-Welsh legislation by Parliament, that ensured that a few Welshmen had reason to support English rule. Could be a lot to say about today, you know what I mean?
I have a little tidbit of information about these anti-Welsh legislations.
Oh, yeah.
So it's your usual stuff, just treating us second-class citizens, blah, blah, blah. There was one that really struck a chord with me, and I think will strike a chord with you as well.
Yeah.
They limited how much beer and mead Welsh people could brew. Now that's something that would make me bear arms, quite honestly.
I mean, I completely get it, because we're doing this now, boozing, and we've said this many times, it's not the reason we're friends, but it's the reason we've continued to be friends.
Yeah, it's not everything, but it's
also, I will fucking die on this cross.
Yeah.
That's classic England, just being a bore to us. Let us have a laugh.
I know, if you're going to subjugate us, at least let's do it pissed.
Wouldn't you want us to be pissed, because then we're a bit more docile? Well, I suppose you get aggy,
maybe that's
and all that.
That was the fault all along there. If they'd have just let us have our mead and our beer, we'd have been fine. OG wouldn't have been able to do anything.
Well, they did that in some wars, didn't they? They used to water down the beer before battle and stuff, so men can get too pissed. Which it's like drinking a Coors Light, but old school.
Oh, we'd be so fucked in medieval times for bar. Well, we wouldn't turn up at first, but then we were like some sort of, I don't know, commander or second in command. We'd be turning up on the day, eyes like piss holes in snow, and like a pissed up seaside donkey. They'd be like, "You had too many last night, didn't you? Barely old our halberd,
spewing in one of those little visors they wear,
taking off our helmets.
Yeah. The most of my fights have always been when I've been smashed, so I completely get it now, actually, because if I sober, not a big fan of the old fighting, drunk, love it. So that's probably a good reason why the English stopped us. Anyway,
yeah, that's a good point, actually.
On April the 1st, 1401, which coincidentally was Good Friday, I don't know if it coincided or he was mega religious, But two brothers from Anglesey, Rhys ap Tudur and Gwilym ap Tudur, seized Conway Castle. They describe it as they seized it by trickery.
I saw that, yeah. It was a good Friday for them, wasn't it? Very good Friday.
Very good. But at the same time, Glyndŵr himself won a victory over an English army and Flemish settlers in Pembrokeshire at Mynydd Hyddgen in mid Wales. These two events reinvigorated the rebellion, and Henry led another punitive expedition into mid Wales but achieved nothing, and his army suffered severely from bad weather. Shock horror.
So I love that it must have been so bad that it quashed the expedition. Like they say, it's bad weather. It sounds a bit shit, doesn't it, when you're reading it out? But it must have been so bad that they went, we're just quashed by bad weather. Cheers, Wales.
Up and quashed.
Been quashed.
When you read, like, doing research, all this stuff, the word quash comes up a hell of a lot, and I love it. It's a word.
They love it.
Yeah, it sounds
they absolutely love the word quashed.
Yeah. So anyway, in early 1402, it's been 2 years since this rebellion kind of got back on track. Glyndŵr's men ambushed and captured Grey of Ruthin, who had indirectly caused the rebellion, which is a funny word to use. I've accidentally caused a rebellion. Like,
what am I like?
What am I like? Oh, gee bugger. And they held him for ransom. Then in June, Glyndŵr himself was near Knighton, about 12 miles from Leominster, which was an English garrison, like an important one, and a market town. King Henry had appointed Henry Percy, which is a hilarious name, widely known as Hotspur, at his principal
I did like
lieutenant.
that. That's a pretty sick nickname for someone in the Middle Ages. Hotspur.
Yeah, well, there's Tottenham Hotspur now, who football team in London. Jack's not a big fan of football.
Straight over my head, yeah.
But they're renowned for like fucking things up and being a bit of a like they don't achieve what they could. So it's
the spirit of Hotspur lives on.
Yeah, maybe that's what they called it because they're fucking pathetic. Anyway, so old Percy boy, aka Hotspur, he was a principal lieutenant in North Wales, and his uncle was the Earl of Worcestershire, and he held a similar appointment in the south. So these two fellas here were quite big. They were kind of like the wardens of the north and wardens of the south.
And they made the crisp flavour, yeah?
Yeah, that's the place.
Just cool, yeah. Okay, just wanted to clear that up. Yeah.
However, the force which confronted Glyndŵr near Knighton was a county levy of Herefordshire under Sir Edmund Mortimer. Sir Mortimer was the uncle of the young Edmund de Mortimer, 5th Earl of the Marsh, and either of them had a better hereditary claim to be King of England than Henry.
Has there ever been a more English name than that?
Which
Edmund Mortimer.
Yeah, they've had a little French D, the D.
Oh yeah, de Mortimer.
De Mortimer. I used to say. So Charles Richard II had declared Sir Edmund's brother and the young Edmund's father, Roger Mortimer, 4th Earl of Marsh, to be heir apparent to the crown. But apparently Roger died or someone else before that. But either way, as much as he had a stronger claim to the throne than Henry, he didn't seem to mind too much that he wasn't king, and he'd so far loyally supported the new king. But even if he wasn't loyal, he was a giant land baron, and a lot of his land in Wales was on the border. So it was always going to be attacked by Glyndŵr's rebellion.
That's right. A lot of his sort of settlements and towns and stuff got raided like fuck, didn't they? Because they're just easy pickings for Mr.
So I think
himself.
He wasn't too bothered about trying to get to become king because he was getting fucking shafted at home. So yeah, it says something like if he wasn't loyal, even if he didn't really care too much about him, he had too much going on to focus.
He's very much bearing the brunt of this rebellion on the English side of things.
Yeah, and he was already being affected by Glyndŵr and his gang of merry men. So if he was not to act, he would probably risk losing lots more land, and should the rebellion keep marching towards, he'd probably be wiped out. So that's kind of what led him to go meet Glyndŵr head on. So the battle itself was fought on the 22nd of June 1402 near Knighton, Prestine. Oh, fuck. I fucked it. I'm never going to be on
It's in Powys, I know that. That's all I noted.
Yeah, I got mates from Prestine. It's garbage there.
Great for a scrap, apparently.
Well, it is. It's just loads of beautiful fields. So if you want a scrap, a field's a great place for it. So the extent of the next part of research I've done is from Wikipedia. And
that's been a main source of mine, to be fair.
Yeah. One of the big things I looked at was one of the things that I noticed on there was the armies, usually Glyndwr's armies are outnumbered quite a lot. This year they were only outnumbered by around 500, it said.
I've seen such a varying numbers because I looked at Wikipedia, obviously my main source. I looked at a couple of like websites that were made by just like Virgin enthusiasts and things like that. Yeah, and so I mean, fair play to them. They helped me out, but also Virgins, what are you doing? And so I looked up, and it was like apparently Edmund Mortimer's force could be anywhere between 2,000 to 4,000 men. I'm thinking, well, that's quite a differential, isn't it? That's double. Yeah. That's quite a lot. And then they said about Glyndwr's men, and they said it could be between 750 and 1,500. And I said, so if you're at the opposite end of the spectrum for both 750 v 4,000, that's monumental. Yeah. So so let's get a bit. I know it's hard to get the sources and things for these, but
too vague, isn't it? Just don't.
That's
disagree.
Too vague.
But I also I can't imagine 2,000 people. Like in my mind, I can count to 10, or it's a million over that. Yeah. Like it's just so I can't really grasp how many that is. But also back then, there probably weren't that many people in the UK, so those numbers.
Mental.
Those numbers would have been probably. 2,000 might not seem loads, but for a battle, relatively.
The only solid bit of sort of evidence, if you like, that I got was from something called the Wigmore Chronicles, which sounds like some really shit fan fiction or something. And this is the only solid bit of information they could give. Like, it had this big paragraph, and it was like, this is unsubstantiated, that's unsubstantiated. One thing we can tell you, and this is a quote now, direct quote. The battle took place on a hill. That's it. Yeah. That is it. And it's like, well, I could have told you that it's the Battle of Bryn, Glas, the Blue Hill.
Imagine all of this turns out it was just like a pub brawl, and the whole England had never even come to Plymouth. But yeah,
fucking Owain's had his fucking poet fucking sorting this out for him.
He was like, the poet was drunk, and he had to quickly write something. Oh yeah, remember that massive fight you had down the pub? Like, smash them in.
Who was it? Oh, Edmund Mortimer was his name. Yeah.
His son's also called that, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, what's his son called? Edmund Mortimer as well. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just too many similar names. Like, get a better range. I know, like, now everyone's called Davis or Jones in Wales, but fucking hell, have a word with yourself, history. So I've noted down some of the big parts of the battle. So, like you said, the battle itself was based on a hill, or Bryn in Welsh, just inside Wales. And they reckon that Glyndwr actually had informants across the border who were being a bit chatty-cathy and giving away Mortimer's army size and maybe some of his plans. So Glyndwr had a bit more of a insight into what was coming his way. And they also
he's a tactical mind, old Glyndwr, wasn't he?
He's a fucking gossip. He loved a bit of goss, didn't he?
He's a chatty Cathy. Yeah,
he just walked. Oh, you seen any soldiers on here then?
Yeah, leaning on people's doorways. See them English round here? Oh, how many? Oh, nice.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I won't say a word. You tell me tap tap.
Edmund Mortimer and his son Edmund Mortimer, is it? Okay. Yeah. Valuable, thank you.
How many men are coming? Between about 750 and 1,500. You look at the rest.
Oh, wait, that's my numbers. About 2,000, 4,000. Thanks. Cheers, mate.
But apparently along the way, Glyndwr also rallied locals who could also move much faster across the terrain because they knew it well, which made him far stronger than Vicky Mortimer had realised.
The Welsh scurrying about with their one sock on one foot,
Nimble boys. Glyndwr was always quite risky in his tactics, but he divided his army, which is always the biggest risk. So he put part of his army, including many archers, armed with the infamous longbow. They were placed on the slopes of the hill, and the remainder were concealed in a valley to the left of the hill, camouflaged by thick foliage. I love that word. It's
just hiding in a bush, isn't it?
So you're hiding in a bush, you fucking nerd.
Yeah. I love that it's like, dividing the forces, and it's always dangerous. But from the numbers we have, that was either 325 archers, 325 skirmishers in the bush, or 750 each way. It's such a massive differential. I can't get over it.
If there was only, say, 500 on the hill, and they had 2,000 men coming towards 500, I would fucking shit myself. I'd be, even though your boys are hiding in the bush, I'd be thinking, they could fuck off now, they could see this ain't gonna happen. The ball's on them to stay their ground.
my arrows would be loosened very shakily from that. I wouldn't be able to hit this fucking wide side of a barn door.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, the remainder were concealed in the valley to the left of the hill, camouflaged by thick foliage. Mortimer's army formed up and advanced along the slope. The Welsh archers clearly in view, so they thought, right, we're going to go straight for them. And Glyndwr's archer outraged Mortimer's, who also had longbows, which are fucking devastating. But Glyndwr's archers started wiping out their men pretty well because they had a good distance before Mortimer's army could fight back. And then just as Mortimer's men at arms...
sorry, mate, to interrupt. A little tidbit again. I know I love my tidbits.
Yeah, you like it.
On that little documentary I watched on this, they did the little poxy old dad and the son. They joined like a Welsh longbow archery team.
Just to clarify,
to see how many...
Do you want to explain what that...
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm on about Battlefield Britain. It's an episode of Battlefield Britain. It was aired on BBC 4, I believe.
Daddy and Son.
Daddy and Sonny. I don't know what their names are. But they did the Battle for Wales and they focused on this one. And so they hung out with a bunch of archers, this archery club down in South Wales. And they were sort of measuring how fast a half-decent archer could fire an arrow. And they said in a minute, on average, you could fire between 8 and 12
That's
arrows,
quite a lot.
which can pierce plate armor and stuff.
That's
so to think, say it was 1,500 was the top end now of Glyndwr's army. So that'd be 750 firing between 8 and 12 every minute.
That's fucking loads.
That's just you're gonna be peppered, aren't you? It's just,
you're not
going to be able to like
video
avoid that.
on Instagram of that arrow going, that guy's blessed. Dude, we sound like psychos. We sound like such... But I seen that video of that guy firing an arrow at like an armor plated, like, it wasn't like a... It was like a straw man who had an armor plate on him, and it showed you like the arrow go through the metal and pierce the breastplate of the armor. And I just thought, fuck, like, you think bow and arrows that can't be that like powerful? They're nuts. They are
stick in a string. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, I don't understand how they are that good though, because they were absolutely bad. And even if they didn't kill you straight away, they'd stick their arrows in the mud. So when they fire the arrows at you, you'd die from infection, because people, especially in Wales, they used to purposely put their arrows in like horse shit and like animal shit. So when they fire at you, you just die from like disease after the battlefield.
In that documentary, the guy was saying that if you needed a shit and it was like, look, you missed your chance, before the battle.
Yeah.
You need a shit. They just drop the keks and shit like on where their arrows were.
Yeah.
So you'd have the little, you have horse shit, you'd have cow shit, you'd have human shit. Just add insult to industry as well.
I just think I don't think I considered how fucking terrifying it would be to see like a volley of arrows coming down at you. But they as they got closer, so Mortimer's men at arms, they got close enough to the archers. That's when Glyndwr's troops, who were concealed in the valley, emerged and attacked the right flank and rear, which I think is so fucking... Le pincer. It's such a fucking cool move, isn't it?
It's textbook in the textbook.
Yeah, it's textbook. But I'd always be expecting it. I wouldn't be at war. But if I went to war, I'd always
I thought this. I was thinking, oh, nice one, Glyndwr. Yeah, hide your auxiliary troops on the side. Yeah, I know that one, mate. But that's because I live in the 21st century and I've seen like every medieval battle film that there is. I'd been playing Total War. Like this is bog standard stuff. But back then, he was, he was an innovator. They go, separate your forces, hide them in bushes. What are you doing?
But that's the other thing as well. Like, I always picture now like Wales with fields, but this is fields that have been farmed, so it's open fields. The amount of like trees and everything else that would be around here at the time, most of this country would have been covered in like foliage, as they call it. But the line of sight would have been massively different to what we see now. But so as they got closer, they got swarmed from the right. And as this was happening, some of the archers in Mortimer's army did the old switcheroo and defected and fired a barrage of arrows into the back of their former colleagues, which is fucking brutal.
I love that.
Yeah. And again, they said
it's difficult to sort of think what it is, because like on that documentary I was watching, it's still not known to this day. Were these guys like planted, double agents sort of thing, or were they just thinking, oh, I'm like an 8th Welsh, maybe I can convince Glyndwr that I was on his side the whole time. I'll just try. We're obviously in a bit of a jam here. Yeah, if I stab my brethren in the back, will you let me live, please?
We'll come on to this in a bit, but Glyndwr is pretty happy to forgive and forget. He's got a lot of that in him. But I'll raise that in a second. Also, do you know you're on about those guys who do archery now. They got a very similar vibe to marshals at paintball. You know,
yeah.
I'm a marshal. Put your visor down. Yeah. Do not turn on. If I see your visor up, I will shackle you to the floor for your safety.
If you fire an arrow while I'm on the field, I will throw him back.
And I will tackle you to the floor for your own safety. You think, chill out, you marshal. I hate marshals.
Yeah, they're corrupt with power, aren't they?
Yeah, they're little fucking losers who got bullied, and now they got a fucking... They're one step away from getting a Kalashnikov and going to fucking blaze up their old school.
They're the fucking Reginald de Greys of the world. They are. They'd have you done for treason on the fucking pitch, wouldn't they? Yeah. Wrongfully.
Old Reggie, baby. Yeah, like you said, they weren't sure if they switched sides due to realising Glyndŵr was going to win, so switched allegiance, or it was a planned defection, or they were like, hey, you know what? I'm a Welsh boy through and through now. But anyway, they said
how many of the English put on a couple of accents? Like
I just love it on the air, don't I? It's big.
I don't love it here. I don't love the Welsh, don't I?
Do you think you ever had a Sullen chips? I fucking love this Sullen chips. You can't get it in England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's our favourite pasty? Kill him.
So this then led to the rest of Mortimer's army getting flustered. I say flustered. It's a bit more than flustered. You're getting shot from the front and the back, and you're getting stabbed. And they pretty much then got like decimated.
I love flustered, faced with your own very real mortality as people are coming to fucking slit your throat. A bit flustered.
I got flapping a bit there. Well, I just imagine how fucking terrifying that would be, though. Like, you're walking up a hill, which alone makes me out of breath. But, like, you've got all your gear on, and as you're getting up there, you're getting pelted with, like you said, 8 to 12 arrows a minute from 300 to a whole bunch of fellas firing down you. And then you're exhausted. You just had, like, metal piercing arrows batter the men in front of you, and then just you're about to go in for the attack, you notice behind you, you hear, oh god, you bastard, and they're getting battered behind you. You think, you're my mate and you're shooting me. Because I bet you don't know some of the fellas who shot him in the back.
Look to your left and there's your so-called mate cocking their arrows, and you go, oh mate, come on. Please no, don't do this to me.
Yeah. So then, after the battle, it was claimed by some gobshites that whilst Mortimer's men lay strewn across the battlefield, many of the English corpses were mutilated by Welsh women who had travelled with their fellas. There's two things there. I love the loyalty. Like, your man's going to have a scrap. It's like, I'm not going to fucking leave him. I'll come down with you, boy. I fucking love you. Whenever you go, I go.
Babe,
I fucking love you. You know I do. Oh, I know you do love me. I can't have you coming. You embarrass me in front of the boys. No, I'm coming with you. I fucking love him.
You know the battlefields of the boys.
But then they apparently they mutilated the bodies as a form of revenge for the punitive expeditions by Henry IV in the previous years.
It was very sort of Braveheart, you know, and he's like, for 100 years of theft, rape and murder. It was a bit like that. But they said they apparently lopped the old, the English's todgers off and popped them in their gobs. Oh. And then it was like the ultimate...
in the dead gobs?
The dead gobs, yeah, not their own gobs, no.
Their own gobs. Who are you pranking here?
Going, wait, look at me, I'm fucking psycho, you English lot. Look at me.
Goblin
I don't mind putting a fucking lopped off cock in my mouth. Don't mess with me.
That's kind of better.
You know what? More respect if they did that. But to clarify, they chop off the dead English's cocks, put them in the dead person's mouth. And then there was no, official burial or whatever. Yeah. There was also apparently a theory that it was a bit of propaganda on the English's behalf to make the Welsh look more like sort of savage and whatever. I don't know which. I think I prefer that the women were like, the men will kill you, but the women will fucking like desecrate your corpse. That's scary, man. Well, you're not even safe when you're dead.
But apparently they did it because, like you said, they've been these punitive rules placed upon them. But so, like you said, you don't really know which one's true. Philip Warner, who's a real clever clog about history, he suggested it was a story perpetuated by English Parliament to portray the Welsh as savages. Yeah. He said, like, the English dead lay unburied, and the stench caused the area to be avoided for months because, like you said, so they're not sure if they were absolutely decapitated or mutilated, but they were definitely not buried. so the whole area was just stinking rotten.
So I had I read something as well. I read that they just left them sort of to rot, which is like the ultimate sort of disrespect.
Yeah.
But then there was another thing I read, that there's a rumor that they eventually did bury them in a mass grave on the Bryn Glas hill, and there's 3 Wellington trees they planted there to mark the English. Again, these ridiculous like disparaging between numbers. They said there was between 200 and 1,100 Englishmen killed. Again, huge margins here.
Maybe they were just shit at counting back then.
I know, 1, 2, 200.
It's like me. Over 10 is 1,000 or 1,000,000.
I know. I mean, they didn't have calculators by then, did they?
Yeah.
It's quite tough.
Yeah. I got a really good image, which doesn't help for podcast form, of the battle itself, which helped me see it a bit better. And it was donated by someone who, well, let's have a little look. It was on one of those classic Virgin websites where they're really good at like telling history that's better than Wikipedia. But it looks really old school. It's got like these old shields. What are those shields called when like, your family crest on them?
Your crest, yeah.
Yeah, those stuff. And it's all written in ye olde English, but it was drawn in 2001. So I thought, this is amazing. This is like a map from the time. But no, it's just some guy's drawn it himself and maybe
just some enthusiast. Yeah.
But he's drawn the big people who died in it. So apparently, like,
I looked at these. Is they got? I mean, they were known to me when I read them. But when you read up on them, it's quite impressive, isn't it? That they got
there's quite a few scalps
murked
there. Well, that's the thing. But the way he's drawn it, so Sir Walter de Rue, he was killed, and Sir Kinner de la Dare was killed. Sir Edmund Mortimer captured. Sir Walter de Whitney killed, and Sir Thomas Clanvaux captured. The way he's shown it, he's got their family crest, and if they're dead, he's turned it upside down, and if they're alive, it's the right way up.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, I like it. But it was a real battering for the English, that one.
I also like that Kinnard de la Bear or whatever his name is. He was. It felt the need in one of these websites to explain to me that he was 3 times Sheriff of Herefordshire, and that just conjured up. Yeah, and that just conjures up memories of me of the Sheriff of Nottingham. And so I was just, into my mind now, he's like Alan Rickman going, "Only Jordan with a spoon," and all.
Oh, that guy. I was thinking the Sheriff from the Disney one. That film makes me cry whenever Friar Tuck goes, "Get out of my church!" and he barely bounces him out. He goes, now, Father. And those little fucking vultures tie it around his gob. So sad. Yeah, they're
similar feeling to what Kinnard was feeling, I imagine, when he was getting fucking pelted with arrows.
Get out of my marshes!
Get out of my armour, you fucking really horrible arrows.
His badge is shit as well. It's just like it looks like sperm on a blue background with a little wigwam.
Who's that? Le Bears now?
Sir Kinnard de la Dare.
Oh, I didn't look at this. I did notice the
crap. Like Glendower's one is fucking banging.
I was just about to say Glendower's one fucking knocks it out of the park. Yeah. It's like, what is it? It's like a yellow and black lion. Something like that. Cool as shit. And then there's what's his name? Mortimer's. It's just like a couple of kiddie shapes. It's like crosses and fucking Thomas, primary colours. Well, like a 2-year-old could do it.
So Thomas Clanvaux, he looks like again, you won't get this reference, but the Colombian football top and kit and badge. It looks like the Colombian badge. All the other ones are like crosses, checkered lines. It's boring. Get a fucking griffin on your badge. Get a Welsh dragon. Like we're not great at lots, but we're fucking banging at flags and badges and nostalgia.
Yeah, flags and badges. That's really where and poetry, as Glendower would say.
Glendower did.
He knew what was going on.
Can I go through? So that was the battle itself, but can we go through some of the key talking points if you haven't covered them?
Let's do it.
I saw a photo of the hill. So you see that photo of the church that's there. There's a photo of the hill that looks really pretty, and I thought it'd be really fun if me and you went for a piss up there in our own way, pay homage to the lads who died there. We just get drunk.
Yeah. Just think about how. A few hundred years ago, well, not a few, quite a few hundred years ago, it was covered in fucking blood and stinking with the English dead. That was great.
And the next one I was going to say, so Rhys Geffin, I think he's one of the leaders of Glyndwr's army.
Mm.
And in one of the articles I read, the person writing it, I really should name check these people, but I'm incredibly lazy. He describes, so Rhys Gethin was leading, I think he was leading the archers who weren't hiding away. So he was on top of the hill. But this is the guy who wrote about him. He went, he described Rhys Gethin as the most gifted and courageous of all of Owen Glyndwr's generals. And that made me think, well, one, he clearly fancies Rhys Gethin.
I was to say, what was he, your boyfriend?
Exactly. Why don't you marry Rhys Gethin if you love Rhys Gethin so much? But secondly, because he said you're the most gifted and courageous, that made me think he's created a list of all of Glyndwr's generals, ranking them on like courage and giftedness. So I was wondering, like, what else did he rank them on? Who's the most handsomest? Who's got the best gift of the gab?
Who do I think's got the biggest cock? You know,
Who's the best
Where does it end?
Who's
the topless shagger? Yeah, everyone else is sitting around a fucking campfire, you know, before battle, sharing war stories. He's writing his fucking list. Oh well, Rhys has gone down a peg. Oh no, I'll tell you what, Rhys is top. Rhys is top in this category.
Well, yeah, he's not the most courageous. He is the most gifted, but he's a second courageous. But yeah, apparently he was a real hot gun.
Hot gun. No hot spit, but a hot gun nonetheless.
Oh, I should point out as well, we did mention we're going to do a Dick of the Day segment where we discuss who's our villain of the piece or who we think's fucked up
and
the most.
And the man of the match as well.
And the man of the match. So I'm going to give man of the match to me, to quickly interject here, to Rhys Gethin, because I'm a sucker for a handsome lead. And Rhys Gethin sounds like he played the part there.
I thought you said that I'm going to give man of the match to me. I was like, what, for reiterating the story like so many years later? Like,
I'm dying for a piss now, so and I've kept
keeping it alive, all right?
Yeah. Also, you didn't notice, but because my camera's off, I sneaked to go get a beer whilst you were chatting. So,
that is sly.
Yeah.
I'm just sat here like a mug, like under watch, big brother. Can't do anything.
Well, for people listening, you've got rum in a sippy cup, which is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Well, I don't want to spell it. You know, that would be a real travesty.
You said you have it in a sippy cup so you don't spill it in bed, which is the most tragic thing I've ever heard.
Listen, part of growing up is being self-reflective enough to know your flaws, okay? I know that I'm clumsy, and if I don't have a sippy cup, if I have it in the rum glasses, like we were drinking out of the other day, that's going to go everywhere. They're so wide on the top.
Yeah, that's the problem. They're too wide.
Yeah, they're stomping. It's just the glasses.
Amy is just going to... I love the fact that you'd be in bed next to Amy, just... These are not
it's also quieter.
Yeah, well, yeah, fair point. Good.
We've gone off on a riff here. You know, let's get back to Owain and his merry men.
So.
I was going to say my man of the match was going to be. I was going to say either the Archers, but it's dubious that one because if they were double agents, fucking brilliant. They're like a bunch of little 007s in my opinion. Great, fantastic. If you're just a bunch of like fucking opportunist cowards, I mean, still thanks. Cheaters, but I don't know if man of the match is deserved you. So I was going to say an honourable mention to old Rhys and Gwilym ap Tudur.
Yeah,
because I like to think that really. I know old OG. Sorry,
remind us who is a Gwilym.
Rhys and Gwilym ap Tudur. You know the ones you mentioned earlier that they got that castle by quote trickery.
Yes.
I know OG. Won a big battle as well to like bolster the troops and pick up morale. But I just loved the idea that it's like filtered down through all the villages and towns and stuff that they went, oh, Rhys and Gwilym ap Tudur, they got this castle. And they went, how'd they do it? Trickery. Trickery, my boy.
Any more info? No. Actually,
that's what I loved about it. I'm sure I will look that up at one point, but I thought I'm going to save that for like a different episode because I didn't click on the link to how their trickery managed it. I like the ambiguity of just trickery.
Actually, I don't think Rhys Gethin did lead the Archers. This is why we couldn't really call ourselves a history podcast. It's more of a guessing podcast. But
just going on Wikipedia and sort of interpreting what we can.
Yeah, but that's they're the two brothers. Were they brothers? No, they weren't. I
thought they were Rhys and Gwilym, and they're both ap Tudur.
Yeah. Well, this was Rhys Gethin, so maybe. No, fuck that. Sorry, Rhys Gethin is in charge of the armors. Rhys ap Tudur is the brother. So that's fair.
Were they like cousins or something? I mean, I might have just made that up. I might just
No, you're right. So
pulled that out of my arse.
Recepted and Gwynaptided are brothers.
No, I mean, were they cousins of like Glendower or something?
I'm not sure.
No, I might have made that up. I don't know. Maybe I just like them to be cousins. I like the idea that they're like the fun cousins that used to come around.
Well, there's two guys. I haven't seen Harry Potter, but I know there's two fucking cousins in that.
Well, you're not wrong.
Is that right? There's two like ginger cunts.
There's brothers. They're twins, so technically brothers. But I mean, they probably got cousins.
I thought they were Harry Potter's cousins. So
there's so many people in it. There's familial collections.
So you're giving it to them. That's a good one. That's a good shout.
Yeah, so I got the traitor archers or the guys that weren't out of the battle. Good going for the first episode. But
yeah, that's shit. Actually, I trusted myself with confusing the names, but I reckon the archers. Either way, you're either like clever or you're fucking opportunistic. And either way,
I mean, if you're going on, who got us the win, man of the match, then either way, no matter their reasoning, the archers sort of got it for us, didn't they? Yeah.
All right, Dick of the day. Mine's. Do you want to go first on this one?
Go on then. Yeah. So I this is more after the fact, right? But so Mortimer.
Okay.
I was going to go Mortimer because he, for those who don't know, Mortimer becomes an absolute turncoat. So he gets captured, and the Welsh secured him in. I think it was Carnarvon Castle. Again, could be completely wrong there. I watched the documentary. I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, the castle in sort of Owen Glyndwr's backyard, nice and safe. Yeah. And he was like, "Oh well, we'll do him for ransom, and we'll get."
They captured him in this battle, and they took him to that castle.
Yeah, they took him to that castle and said, "Look, we're gonna have him for ransom, fund the effort and everything like that, the rebellion."
Yeah.
And then the English went, "Nah, don't want to pay for you," and also Henry IV, this suited him quite well because Mortimer had a stronger claim to the throne than actually he did. So this was actually quite convenient for him, and he went, "Well, I'll just leave you to the Welsh, probably to die in captivity, the classic.
Yeah.
And then you're not a threat to my throne or whatever." Turns out Mortimer wasn't too fussed on this, didn't love it, didn't love this reply.
Yeah.
So he said, "I'll tell you what, how about I shag your daughter, Owain, and then I'll marry her to decent man, and we'll become best buds, bosom buddies, and then you can support my sort of claim to England. I'll sort you out, you sort me out." And I'm pretty sure that's verbatim as well. But yeah, and I thought
you say verbatim.
Verbatim. How do you say it?
Verbatim.
Verbatim, is it? Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, I thought it was a history podcast, not an English lesson, mate. Verbatim.
Well, I was going to say, so if anyone ever says like their relationship is unreconcilable, I'll simply point to Mortimer because he had a literal war with someone, got captured, but was so fucking charming. Like I imagine he's like the medieval Hugh Grant. He's like fumbling around, going, "Oh, sorry, excuse me."
I could love that. Well, sort of. The thing is, I'd sort of been fucked by my own country. Sort of.
Embarrassing.
I was wondering if I kind of marry your daughter.
I don't know quite how to say this, but I'm in love with your daughter, Glyndwr.
I'm just a beaten Englishman standing in front of a Welshman asking for his daughter's hand in marriage.
Well, Glyndwr had about 10 daughters. Well, I think he had 6 or something. But
my man's a shagger.
He is a shagger, and he had daughters coming out the wazoo. He was absolute wazoo mad.
He was like 1 of 10, 10th of my estate. Have it, mate.
Yeah, shows your dowry. But yeah, so like you said. When he was captured, Henry, King of England, was so poor as well. He was really out of pocket. He didn't want to fund it for those reasons because, like you said, he had a stronger claim to the throne, and old Henry was short on coffers. So I think it's a good dick of the day for being a little turncoat. But I actually,
I can't help but think, why would I feel like Owen Glyndwr should have been a bit smarter, maybe, and because I would be thinking, well, if you're such a turncoat for your own country, what are you going to do to me?
I'm playing both sides,
and you're shagging my daughter. That's already too much.
Well, I think this comes up again. We'll probably do it on another episode where he does that with everyone he captures. He goes, "Oh, you're captured. Marry the daughter." Because like, there's a few people he attacks or gets captures. He gives them one of his daughters. He goes, maybe his daughters were dicks, and that's why it's like a punishment. It's like, oh
no, I'm thinking what it is. I think maybe Owen was fucking dish and a half, and his daughters were stunners. And then these guys are like, "I will die for my country. There's nothing you can do." And he goes,
"Damn!
Have a look at this. Come in,
wouldn't
Catherine."
you?
And he goes, "You like this? You like the look of it? What would you probably want to shag it, don't you?" You go, well, yes. Yeah, exactly. Right, you're Welsh now. You're on the Welsh team.
My dick of the day is slightly different. It's out. It's a couple of years later. But it's old Bill Shakespeare, the bard, William Shakespeare.
Oh, Bill.
Because in Henry IV, he says, this is a quote from Henry IV, "The noble Mortimer, leading the men of Herefordshire to fight against the wild and irregular Glendower, was by the rude hand of the Welshman taken, 1,000 of his people butchered." So a few things with that. Fuck calling him Glendower to begin with.
I know.
It's like when people call me Alan instead of Alan. It fucking enrages me. So I bet Glendower was so angry that he'd be called Glendower.
I can imagine someone looking at Bill's bloody work going, "Oh, you know his name was Glendower, didn't you?" "Oh, I know. I know."
In work, right, if someone calls me Alan, I am so petty. So if they call Tim, I'll call him
Chinham.
Yeah, I'll say, I message them on Teams and I will fucking deck you when I see you, which has happened.
You and your 5 artists fucking DM me now.
Yeah. But also, by the rude hand of that Welshman, like, have a day off, Bill. He was stealing Welsh land and we're the rude boys for them going back.
You came to fight him.
Yeah, exactly.
He squared up to him.
Bastard. So, I didn't think that was rich.
Bill's the fucking, that guy's Weasley mate in the pub, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
The guy starts it, you have a scrap with him and win, and then he goes, "Oh, you should have seen him. He was you gave him a cheap shot and he was right."
Who's the guy in Beauty and the Beast? Is it Gaston? Who's his little mate?
Oh, I can't think of his name now,
Gaston's the little fella.
Yeah,
no one's strong like Gaston sings a song like Gaston. That boy.
No one has a massive cock like Gaston.
Oh, well, I know. So yeah, he's my dick of the day. Like, fucking have a word with yourself. Like, Owen's poet saying how good his Mrs. Bush was. What's Bill doing?
I'm all for positive poetry. I do not like this negative build each other up, boys, instead of tearing each other down. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. One life, live it. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I reckon we start tidying this up. We've only got a little bit left on the record. I'm fucking dying for a piss. So, shall we?
I was going to say we were going to do a funny fact of the thing. I've only got a very short one.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what we jotted down in our drunken delirium.
Yeah, what's your funny fact of the day? Oh, Jack's funny fact.
I'm gutted now because I looked really hard for this because we put it down. I thought, I don't want to let Franco down, and I can clearly tell you have not got the funny fact. But this is a good one, right? On one of Henry's incursions into Wales, his punitive incursions, right, when he was in mid Wales, the one that got quashed by bad weather. Henry was in his tent one night after sort of just doing the rounds, bolstering the troops and all that sort of stuff, and the weather was so bad that the top of his tent had filled with water so much that it collapsed on him, and he only survived because, you know, like the big royal tents, they're not like shit little pop-ups, they got like wood pillars and shit, haven't they? So it fell on him and everything, and it would have killed him, but he was in his full plate armor. And as the rumor goes, this is probably, very a bit of poetic license added to this, but I love the fact that this little fucking wood beam fell on him after the rain was too heavy, and he went, "Oh fuck this, I'm going home now. I'm going to turn back round. We're going back to England. We're going to London. I've had enough."
Fucking London.
Yeah, go back to London.
I've never been to London before. That's a funny fact.
I just love that. He was like, "We're gonna fucking smash the Welsh," and a bit of fucking rain, and he was like, "Oh, this is shit. I'm all miserable and wet.
Fucking hate this. It's horrible.
My tent's collapsed now. Where am I gonna sleep?"
Oh, my fucking arm is soaking. Cold right through.
I love we've both got the same Henry IV voice. Like, "Oh fucking hell!
Oh fucking hell!" And it's mostly Richard from the show The Undateables.
Yeah. Oh, thank God, I'm a fucking armour on, eh?
Well, on that fun fact, we'll keep changing the format, I'm sure. But as a first trial, should we leave it there and we'll
I think that sounds about that's about right. You know,
We'll
that's all I
see.
got. All right,
That's all I got. I'm dying for a piss.
Same here.
Well, should we catch back up in a second? And we'll say thank you everybody
all right,
for listening. Goodbye.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for